Now, the National Youth Development Agency has hosted a BRICS Youth Trade Convention where attendees explored how Intra Africa and Brics trade could benefit future generations. Now, this included the South African BRICS Youth Association. It was all to advance and promote the Global South collaboration. Let's unpack this further. We're joined this morning by Karabo Mohale, who is the Deputy Chairperson of the BRICS Youth Association. Karabo, it's great to see you. There are a lot of big sort of phrases I'm using there, but break it down for us. What was this convention all about, and when do we start to see the fruits of what was discussed there?
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me this morning. Well, the intention really for the trade convention that was hosted yesterday by the National Youth Development Agency was to ensure that we edge the participation of young people in multilateral platforms. So we want to ensure that the voices of young people in these specific spaces is actually recognized and it's cemented. So we're calling that there must be institutionalization of the participation of young people in all of these platforms. But more so when we're speaking about intra-Africa trade, it is a call by young people in particular to say that the country and also the continent needs to go back to industrialization. You know, the path that we have been following in the past of deindustrialization has really not benefited us, especially because now when you're speaking about the African Continental Free Trade Area, it's going to require that there is some commodities that is traded amongst African countries. And the call for young people really is that we must be able to invest in production-intensive sectors because you cannot trade if there's nothing for you to trade. And that's essentially what the platform was intended to achieve. But the good thing with the platform is that we had a dual approach to it. So you had the very first session that focuses on sharing information and having youth perspectives on what they think should be the blueprints going forward. But the second session really focused on the solutions and the pragmatic interventions that are already in place and ones we would want to see. So you had different financial service providers that were there presenting on the non-financial and financial support that is available for young people in South Africa and how they can be able to take advantage of those opportunities that exist.
So, Karabo, as I understand it, this summit essentially was aimed at young people who already have a presence, right? These are people between the ages of 18 and 35 from these BRICS nations and nations in the Global South that are already part of innovating, part of the discussion that you've just described. So it's not so much about opening up the space, it's about using the space that they are in optimally.
Well, it's duality really, because what you want to do is that you don't want to only assert those that are already in the space, but to be able to say those that do not know how to enter the space, here are the practical steps that you can be able to follow to enter into the space. So for one example that we presented yesterday are some of the beneficiaries of the National Youth Development Agency that were funded by the institution to produce different commodities. For example, there was one young person who produces honey. Now, with that, we're saying this here is a product, a final product that actually comes through the process of the NYDA of a young person who's a beneficiary. You know, so you are not only saying that it must be the end product, those that are already in the space, but we're saying even those that have ideas, groundbreaking interventions, that have ideas on what it is that we can be able to produce, not only to resolve the challenges that we have in South Africa, but as well as the Global South. We then say, here is a platform. What are your ideas? These are the investors that are here that can be able to support you in your growth and development.
Yeah, absolutely important discussion, especially here in South Africa, given the kind of pressure we have on young people, given the kind of unemployment numbers we have in this particular sector of our nation. Karabo Mohale, let me thank you for your time this morning. Deputy Chairperson of the BRICS Youth Association after hosting that BRICS Youth Trade Convention. Karabo, thanks very much indeed for joining us.